And the race is underway for the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup, with on the front row of the grid Jordan Johnson and Ian Tomlinson as they turn into turn one, with Johnson taking the lead from very good qualifying for Ian Tomlinson this morning. Then Ben Hansey is trying to get round the outside and has done so. The former champions into second. Oak Richardson's made a good start from what was 7th position to get up to 4th. He was a race winner at Croft, as was Johnson and Hansey. So Richardson, who didn't have a good time, is an instant behind. A couple of cars have gone to the left-hand side of the circuit. One of them is 99, which is Martin Vernon, I believe. And the second car is 32, which was a good qualifying this morning for Jake Micklewright. They've both got back going, but they're at the back of the pack now. Meanwhile, for the lead, it's Jordan Johnson versus Ben Hansey, which we saw a lot of last time out at Croft.
Both of these cars started on the inside of their respective rows. Johnson from pole, just being kicked up there by the 46 car. Nicola Favo has suddenly found herself right up there in the fight for virtually a podium. Well, a few cars back from that, but because of the carnage on the opening lap approaching Church, again on cold tyres, you needed to negotiate that as best as possible, pick your way through the spinning machines and hope when you close your eyes, when you open them again, you're still on the track. But all these cars were. But Jordan Johnson and Ben Hansey making that inside line into turn one work perfectly. They run first and second, having started first and third.
Yeah, at Croft, we saw a great battle between these two in the opening race, and then there was a collision on the final corner, basically, which allowed Oak Richardson to take the victory. Then Jordan Johnson drove through to win the second race, and Ben Hansey won the reverse grid race, the third race of the weekend. But it's those two up front, with Ian Tomlinson there in third position, who had a better result of 5th last time out at Croft. Then Oak Richardson's in 4th, but now he's on the grass, which is a suboptimal line, I think, to be fair. But he's back on the circuit. He didn't lose a position, but lost quite a lot of time. There's another car that's trying that out, the grassy route out of turn one. For 5th position, Adrian Johnson is alongside Lloyd Huggins. So Adrian, who's the father of the race leader, Jordan, is on the inside line as they go through Church Corner. And can he make it through at this stage? Well, they're still pretty much overlapping, with Lloyd Huggins, whose birthday is tomorrow, is trying to get himself up alongside to get back ahead of Adrian Johnson, but can't quite do it at this stage. And this is bringing the 1-2-3 machine in that comes up the inside. That's Felix Lowe, who qualified 5th this morning, fighting his way back through. So good to see Felix Lowe out there and doing a really good job. He's just gained a place, I think, a novice cross in the back of his car. Yeah,
early on in his racing career, but so far so good, and gaining places, which is always beneficial early on in your racing career. And for those running a tad wide, I suppose you can only know the limits of adhesion once you've crossed over them and realise, that's a bit too far. Let's keep it slightly neat and tidy the next time I go through turn one. But bear in mind, these cars are still, having started stone cold, working their way up to optimal positions and conditions as the top three head out of the right-hander at hairpin, down the straight with no name, which really just drop away from you. You don't necessarily know that from all angles, but I really like the angle that Alpha Live have this weekend, staring right down Tom Price Straight and then looking at the back of the cars as they return to the main start-finish line. Lots of gradient change here, which isn't immediately something that springs to mind when you think of Anglesey, but there's plenty of up and down nature to it. Particularly when it was reprofiled a good few years ago now. Jordan Johnson leading by half a second over Ben Hansey. Ian Tomlinson in 3rd position, just in danger maybe of losing touch with the top two, Josh.
Yeah, it looks that way. Ian Tomlinson, who's normally always there or thereabouts, but not able to finish on the podium last time out at Croft. There is Felix Lowe, who's still involved in this battle with Lloyd Huggins behind and Adrian Johnson just ahead. Johnson there in 5th place, the truck driver from Gloucestershire. The 59-year-old who's been racing in Mazdas since 2017. He's still there in 5th position. Adrian Johnson, who is 8th in the championship, where he got a 7th place finish as his best result at Croft. He's now going to better in P5, ahead of Felix Lowe, who's still under pressure from Lloyd Huggins, who looks to the inside. Lloyd, the driver who's been racing since 2019. So again, a lot of these drivers not with huge amounts of experience, but all having a great battle. And Matthew Short now joining in as well, the 69-year-old retired GP from Wiltshire, who has got a lot of experience. He's been racing MX-5 for 20 years now, and is still enjoying himself, and he's trying to gain a position on the inside line. A lock up ahead though for that would Felix Lowe, has got himself up ahead, or up alongside at the very least of Adrian Johnson. And can Felix Lowe, the novice driver, pull this into a position gained as they come up to the final corner, Johnny?
Might be a little bit too much to ask, purely because Felix has the inside line, but they will head towards bus stop virtually together. 17 will cross the line in 4th position, Oak Richardson, and it is still side by side between Lloyd Huggins and the white car on his outside, who was Matthew Short, who actually gained a place. That's what was foxing me for a moment. So Short in the 72, now briefly ahead, although back behind now, Lloyd Huggins. So scoring tower was correct as they headed across the line, but it switched back again.
Yeah, great racing from the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup, backed by Switch again for this year. And trying to join in on this battle is Matthew Matt Pennefather-Neal, who's there in 9th position ahead of Nico Favreau, who completes the top 10. More drivers just running a touch wide out of Church Corner. That was Jake Micklewright, I think, who's trying to recover from that spin on the first lap. He's up to 12th, the driver who did start 4th originally. New fastest lap for Ben Hansey, the driver in 2nd place. A 1:49.07 is 4/10 behind race leader Jordan Johnson. Jordan's father there, 22, Adrian Johnson, turns his way through Pill Curve. Well, we've got 5 cars involved in this battle now as well, because Matthew Neal joining in.
Yeah, so the scrap for 5th, as highlighted by our graphics on the left of your picture. Johnson ahead, but only by a couple of tenths at the start of the lap, and those gaps have been chopping and changing for the rest of this 2.1 mile circuit. We've still got 8 minutes of this race to enjoy, by the way, the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup. And those early on in their career are getting a quick lesson, a steep learning curve in racecraft, all about car position on the road in order to try and defend, but ideally attack at the same time, because no doubt you'll be in a long line of Mazda MX-5s, as this little lot are. Heading into bus stop now. Oh, a touch wide there for the 22, being driven by Adrian Johnson, but nobody quite close enough to pounce.
So that battle continues on to lap 5 in this race, into turn 1, and again up over the curbs on the exit of the corner. Firstly for Adrian Johnson, and then for the chasing pack as well. So they're not that far behind Oak Richardson, who's not going as well this weekend at Anglesey as he did at Croft 4 weeks ago, where he was a race winner. He comes into this weekend only a point behind championship leader Ben Hansey, but down in 4th position for Oak Richardson. He's just ahead of this pack is the driver from Buckinghamshire, but for 5th position, Adrian Johnson versus Felix Lowe. We'll see Felix Lowe challenge up the inside. He's been late on the brakes so far in this race, and again he just locks up a little bit, but when you have the inside into Rocket, that tends to work out for you, Johnny. Yeah,
bit of cadence braking there, just easing out of the brake just to allow the car to roll into the corner and make sure that Adrian Johnson didn't have the option to pull across his bows, but that meant that as the car became unweighted on the left side, there's a slight bit of a lock-up, which obviously doesn't want to keep repeating because he'll be flat spotting that front left. And then the danger is you do it a bit more and it keeps finding that part of the tyre, the flat bit, and will start to chew through the rubber. He's got away with it for the time being, Felix Lowe, but again, this is something everyone's got to be mindful of. Bearing in mind we're talking about drivers that are sometimes in their first season, some racing for 2 or 3 years, but no more. And Lloyd Huggins on the attack. He has managed to get free of Matthew Short. And that's Matt Neal, did we say? Matthew Neal behind in the second of the white cars.
Yeah, that's right. Let's have a look at the leaders. We haven't seen them for a while. They're close together. I don't think we've seen a real challenge yet from Ben Hansey, who was the champion in 2019 and 2020. But it's Jordan Johnson who leads, the HGV mechanic from Gloucester. He's 31 years of age, the race leader, who's been racing since 2018. He took only his second ever victory last time out at Croft. And he heads away. If anything, on the last lap or so, he's just edging away from Ben Hansey, but we know over the course of today how effective the toe can be around this Anglesey circuit. So as they head uphill, that gap comes back down again, and Ben Hansey is only a couple of car lengths behind race leader Jordan Johnson. So we've got a lead battle on once more.
Hansey's set a 1:49.0. The best lap from the race leader Jordan Johnson, a 1:49.1. So best lap column is going in the favour of the 40 car, second on the road. But as you said, it was Johnson who extended the gap by 1/10 of a second last time around. It's going to have come down, though, certainly between from the 0.57 that it was a lap ago. And this is a similar situation, although not to quite the same extent as the earlier race, where the top two broke away. And we were left really feasting our eyes upon the scrap for third position. Ian Tomlinson, Oak Richardson, Felix Lowe. Squeal of tyres, tortured tyres again as that gaggle works its way through hairpin. But the leaders totally together, 4 more minutes to do.
Yeah, so we should squeeze 3 further laps into the duration. Meanwhile, for Lloyd Huggins, he's run a little bit wide, has lost out to Matthew Short. Then you get Matthew Neal just behind them. They're in 9th position. But let's have a look at the leaders again, because Hansey slides out over the curbs. 0.55 of a second was the lead gap going on to this, the 7th lap of the race. It does seem at different parts of the lap, Johnson and Hansey have their advantages at different points, because again at this beginning of the lap Johnson just pulling clear, but then we saw on the last lap up towards Rocket Ben Hansey was able to close in again. There's Ian Tomlinson, who's in 3rd position, who was the runner-up in the 2019 championship. Then a big gap back to Oak Richardson, who's there in 4th position. But we have a look then at Ian Tomlinson, a long-time MX-5 racer. He's there in 3rd position as he breaks up into Rocket, looking for his first podium of the season in the M&K Motors Mazda MX-5. All the cars here Mark 1s. Nowadays these cars 30 plus years old, but they've been such a popular race car in the UK, and they continue to be so, Johnny.
You can't beat a classic, can you? And yeah, the old school Mazda MX-5 is still hugely loved, particularly in the UK, but further afield as well. Big fan following in the US, for example, with their own championship there. So nose to tail again. This is the 72 of Matthew Short, with Lloyd Huggins now behind. So it's the red car in the middle of the 2 white machines. Matthew Neal, the second of those white cars, number 21, 7th, 8th and 9th positions. I was thinking about where Ben Hansey is finding that time. I just wonder whether his car it's either better on the brakes or Hansey's more confident as he applies the brake pedal up towards Rocket. So setup clearly very good, but he can't get the required drive off the banking and through Church to be close enough to Jordan Johnson once they head to the twiddly bits at the top of the hill.
I think they've been given the last lap board, Johnny, so it's going to be like the last race. It's 15 minutes minus a few seconds rather
minus a lap.
Minus, yeah, absolutely right. So let's see how that one works out. There's Richardson in 4. Felix Lowe is up into 5th position now and pulling clear of Adrian Johnson, who's there in 6th. A big challenge for 7th from Lloyd Huggins up the inside of Matthew Short, and they're going to be wheel to wheel as they come out of the banking for what we think is the last time in this race. And Short on the outside lines just got enough momentum to hang on ahead of Huggins. Matthew Short, who started racing 20 years ago in the MG Owners Club before moving to a Mazda MX-5. He's the father of Ben Short, who runs a lot of the cars in the championship, the multiple champion, who's watching on today from the pit wall rather than racing at the front of the pack. But there's his dad, Matthew Short, trying to get up alongside Adrian Johnson, but can't quite make it at this stage of the race with just a few corners to go.
So if the 6th place battles at Rocket, race leaders probably about to head on to Tom Price Straight or a bit further than that, because the gap to these guys, 20-odd seconds. Jordan Johnson still ahead of Ben Hansey as far as we know. Ian Tomlinson's a good 7 seconds, 6.5 seconds back. But we'll catch a glimpse of the race leaders in just a tick heading out of hairpin. And yeah, the checkered flag is in hand. Here are the leaders, Josh.
Yeah, and Jordan Johnson's very much pulled away on the last lap of the race. So for the second time this season, he's a race winner. For the third time ever, he's a winner. So congratulations to Jordan Johnson, who beats Ben Hansey and Ian Tomlinson back on the podium. And I'm out the cockpit. He'll be pleased to be back up onto the roster in third place. Oak Richardson, here probably not be enjoying that so much. Down in fourth spot, he comes out of the final corner now ahead of Felix Lowe. A great effort from him to take fifth. Sixth position after this race-long battle goes to Adrian Johnson, who just holds off ahead of Matthew Short, Lloyd Huggins and Matthew Neal. For 10th, for change, because Jake Mickelwright, who had that spin on the first lap, has got himself ahead of Nico Favreau, who goes bouncing across the curbs on the last lap and hangs on ahead of David Brown, who took 12th. And then the rest of the field will flow through with Steve Quemby and Mary Barnard. Martin Vernon, the other spinner on lap 1, he recovered to 15th. Then I think we've got Chris Moore, Martina Ward, Neil Burrows and David Foster, all the starters again, still running at the end of the race. But for Jordan Johnson, he was able to hang on that time, Johnny, and then actually in the end pull clear on the last lap.
Yeah, again, you know, the result is going to belie Ben Hansey's pace, and I do think at times he might have been able to get a better chance to get through. Obviously, we did have Ben right on the boot lid of Jordan Johnson throughout, apart from on the final tour. 2.4 seconds in the end, the winning margin, Joshua.
So let's take a look at the race results of the fourth round of the Switch MX-5 Cup by 5 Club Racing, where Jordan Johnson was a race winner by 2.4 seconds over Ben Hansey, and Ian Tomlinson completed the podium. Oak Richardson, 4th ahead of Felix Lowe and Adrian Johnson. Matthew Short, Lloyd Huggins, Matthew Pennefather-Neal and Jake Mickelwright completed the top 10. Nico Favreau, David Brown, Steve Quemby and Mary Barnard finished on the first page of timing, with Martin Vernon, Chris Moore, Martina Ward, Neil Burrows and David Foster all making it to the checkered flag. So once again, the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup sees everybody who started make it to the end with some good, clean racing. We'll see the MX-5s twice again tomorrow. Once in the morning and then the reverse grid race in the afternoon. So lots to look forward to there. But congratulations to Jordan Johnson on his second win of the season, which will add to his first, second and 6th from last time out at Croft. It's another podium for Ben Hansey, but a big improvement from Ian Tomlinson, who had a couple of 5ths and a 6th at Croft. This time he's on the podium. And they are heading down into Parc Ferme, where Andy McEwen will pick up the top 3 and have a chat with them. And we should have a little bit more time this time. So we're going to head downstairs now to Andy.
So a second win of the year for Jordan Johnson then in the 5 Club MX-5s, who's just pulling in behind me. And he's already got his helmet off. Look at that, ready and raring to go. Very eager to get at least part way out of his race suit. Can't say I blame him, really. It's hot work out there, even in an open-topped MX-5. But Jordan, another fantastic result. Bit of pressure early on there from Ben, but you really seem to come into your own in the second half.
Yeah, I just about managed to keep him at bay. I mean, he was eating into me up rocket every lap, and any gap I built on him, he brought it all back, and it was a last lap mistake, and yeah, I knew the job was done then, so happy with that.
That's slightly concerning as well, because that's the best place to overtake, isn't it? It's not easy to pass here, so were you really having to focus on a good exit from Church to defend from?
Yeah, well, I was strong enough in the first couple of corners just to gap him, and then when the last lap board came out, I was like, no mistakes, get around Church and get gone. I saw he dropped a wheel on the dirt or something, and that was it then, so just bring it home. So.
Early stages in the championship, of course, but it's never too early to start thinking about points, and it's looking good for you so far, isn't it? It's going to be tight, but you're doing well.
Yeah, it's going to be a good run with me and Mr. Hansey if we can keep from knocking each other off. But yeah, it's going to be a good fight the rest of the season. Looking forward to it.
You wouldn't dream of it, I'm sure. So Jordan Johnson, our race winner, will scoot round this way and find Ben Hansey second place. Now Ben had a win last time out in the 3rd race at Croft. Not quite a victory this time, Ben. Second place though, and as I just said to Jordan, good points in what's going to be a tight championship battle.
I think by 5 Club standards, I expect that was a fairly dull race. It certainly was for me. I knew with the weather we've got today that tyres were going to be an issue at the end of the race. So I was just kind of trying to keep my powder dry. And then he got a little bit of gap on me on the last lap, and I kind of pushed too hard and then fell off at Church, and that was it done. So we go again tomorrow, and I'll see if I can take top step off into him tomorrow.
All this talk about tyres, our viewers at home are probably thinking, oh, they're only 15-minute races. What's everyone talking about? What is it exactly exactly that you're struggling with drivers, especially in a rear-wheel drive car that probably should look after the tyres better?
Yeah, so the Mazdas, they're a low-power car, so we effectively run on a road tyre, and so you're putting a lot of pressure on on a fairly small contact patch. It's rear-wheel drive, so once they've got the heat in them, a day like today, we're just losing grip, and somewhere around here where you've got tight and twisty stuff like up at Rocket is just trying to manage that as best as we can. And I think both Jordan and I were sliding around a bit at the end, and he just had the better of me today.
Well, not bad though. Second place for Ben Hansey. If we can just squeeze through, we'll try and find Ian Tomlinson, our third place finisher. Very quick chat with Ian because I know that the cars for the next race are about to head out. Ian, third place finish, best you could do, or was there more in the tank?
No, I think that was about me a lot, really. Yeah, to be honest, I've not really been near these two for a while, so I was just happy to be near them, you know. So, yeah.
It's a challenge out there, isn't it, though? A challenge to pass, a challenge to look after the tyres, as Ben was just saying. How much were you struggling with that?
Well, I was all right this one because I was just on my own for most of it. So Ben got past at the start, and then I think that Oak made a mistake quite early on, so I just had a load of room in front and behind me. So, yeah, I was just cruising, really.
It doesn't get much better than that in MX-5 racing, that's for sure.